afternoon, Roxy Soxy.
Good afternoon, Tammin. You were a little bit in the doghouse today.
I'm not in the dog. Roxy and I had our second fight in 2 years, and I honestly thought that this podcast was going to be us just icing each other out for 30 to 40 minutes. I even texted you. I was like, I'm not going to talk throughout this podcast. So.
No, that's
yeah. I was like,
I know you're
it's
mad
up
at
to
me.
you. And you wrote whatever. No, and then you wrote, what did you write? You had, do what you please. What the hell is that? Do what you please. And then I wrote whatever.
And then it was all good. We got it all out. It was like done. This is why it's so good that when you have these kind of like, little fights or little tiffs or whatever, you kind of get it out and then you move on, right?
Well, the reason why I think I'm right, I did something today. We have this incredible guest on, and I blipped with the timing today. And my husband's not here to help, and I was with the kids. And I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like after you've had one kid, it's like your mind is always thinking about two people all the time, and you just don't think about yourself. And so I just thought that this show was tomorrow, and I forgot about the time, and I kept saying to Roxy, like, I fucked up. I'm so sorry. I fucked up. And Roxy didn't make me feel better. She didn't go, oh, I totally understand. People fuck up. Like, we have compassion for you. She's like, well, why didn't you get a calendar? Like, where's your husband? And I was like, oh my goodness. And then she goes, I'm not mad at you. And I said, it's fine. I know you're mad at me, but I need you to lead with compassion and love. And she's like, I'm fine. I'm not mad.
I know. I kind of had to, like, the first 5 minutes, I was like kind of mad.
I see you. I know you so
you know me.
well.
Yeah, you do. You know me. But you know what? I was fine after 5 minutes. So I was like, okay, now let's get it together.
I literally diarrhea, which is like all my, which I realized I probably overacted just a slight bit. A diarrhea of like how I'm a good person and like how I should be forgiven. And then Roxy's like, can you do 3:30? It's like, she doesn't even answer literally the entire 3 pages of text that I just texted her. I was like, so 3:30 work? Question mark.
And this is why we don't get into fights normally, because of this.
Yeah.
But no, it's actually good. We worked it out. We're good. We figured out a solution, which was like the big thing. And
heaven forbid I do something really bad.
Then you got a little taste.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm actually afraid for David. I'm like, poor David.
Now, how do you see you always say
I'm like siding on David's side. I'm like, poor David, can I go give him a hug and run him a warm bath?
He's probably like, when he hears about this, he'll be just like, oh, thank God it wasn't me this time.
Yeah, he's like, I deal with it all the time. And then I'm sure my husband's like, oh, Tammin's so sensitive, because like he'll say something and be like, what did I do? How can I be better? Where did I fuck up? Should I hate myself? It's a lot. It's a lot.
Nope. Just a little scheduling error. It's all good. It's all water under the bridge. I still love you. It's all fine.
Our next guest had no idea that even went down.
I'm trying to, what I was actually thinking too. I'm trying to think of the last little tiff our next guest, Kristen and I got in. And I don't even know. I can't even recount, but I know that there must have been something. Like, I know. Because don't you get into fights with your friends sometimes, Tammin?
Just you. I do. But it comes from when I feel like people are trying to make me feel bad. Like, for example, I make myself feel bad enough for everyone else. Like, no one needs to make me feel bad. I can totally do that alone. So when someone's trying to make me feel worse, which I do to my husband sometimes, so I understand why he gets so frustrated when I do it to him. When I feel like someone's trying to make me pay, when I'm already paying myself, that's when I get shitty. And I had one friend say to me, like, I got upset about something. She said, you need to be careful because as a mother, you have kind of like ruined my day with my child.
What?
Yeah, it was kind of like a big guilt trip. And for me, I was just like, let's be like, we don't need to do that. I'm sure I felt bad enough as it was.
Was it like a major fight, or was it
a scheduling thing too? I think it was just a scheduling. It was a scheduling, or like, I couldn't make it to something or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay. I can forgive like calendar errors. Time is just not on your side, okay?
Why I have ADHD. What can
That's
you
true.
do?
That's true.
The
Newly.
doctor diagnosed me, so now I will use that as an excuse for the rest of my fucking life.
Can I get
I'll
in
be
on
like,
that too?
literally, I'll just be like, text you. I'll be like, I'm so sorry, Roxy. I forgot the podcast. I have ADHD.
Damn it. Damn it. You've got another out.
And I'll send you my doctor note. I'll be like, told you.
You're like, he said so.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
glad this next show, because
mm,
after all the crap that was this morning, the most important thing is speaking to this wonderful woman and getting her
mm,
story out, and, you know, getting the awareness out there, and also figuring out how we can help to do that. And
mm.
so it was really important to me when I heard about her, and she's your friend that you've known for a long time. I was like, let's get her on this show, because we need to spread the word about this awful, awful, awful rare genetic disease. And she'll talk about it more, and you'll introduce her. But I think this is a really important podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad we've made it happen. And it's actually long overdue. She is Kristen, her name is Kristen Gray. She started an amazing foundation called Cure Batten. It's one of the organizations that I believe in, that I support, that has just done so much amazing work for kids that suffer from Batten disease. And I'll let her talk more about it. But just to give a little background, I've known Kristen. We went to USC together to college. She's one of my best girlfriends. And so we've had this sort of long history of like kind of growing up together in a way, because
Mhm.
you're 18 years old and you're still kind of a kid, you know. I mean, you're
Mhm.
still growing up and maturing and doing the whole thing. And we went from, college to living in New York together in our young 20s, to we also lived together during college, and then like adulting together. I mean, we were party girls too, a little bit.
You
Before,
were, Roxy. I don't see that in
I know it's
you.
kind of crazy that we all have to grow up at some point. Not really into that, but that's okay. But yeah, so now fully adulting, and Kristen has this beautiful family with her husband Gordon. And if there was a picture of Superwoman in the dictionary, it would be Kristen, because
Mhm.
she really, really, really has moved mountains in her life, and really does amazing things. So without further ado, let's welcome Kristen Gray.
Thank you.
Ladies,
Hi, Kristen.
Roxana Bayul.
Yes,
I
Christiana
didn't know
Margot.
you guys knew each other for that long. That's like
It's been a long
you're in each other's like souls.
truth. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Hey,
And to
Kristen.
be fair, Roxy, I don't know if we've ever gotten in a real fight, because it's very hard to get you mad.
Oh no, it's like she gets mad, but it's behind a veil.
She might not, she might get mad secretly, but she doesn't emote a lot other than the joy and the happiness all the time. And so if you do get her mad, it must have been a doozy, because I think the last time we got in a fight was on her birthday, and she wanted to go out after hours after
Yes.
her birthday, and I
That's
wanted
right.
to go home because we were in our late 30s, maybe early 40s, and it was time to go to bed at 11 p.m. And she did not want to go, so she huffed and puffed and stormed out.
That's right.
And that was it. And maybe sent a couple texts giving me crap and sending me photos of how much fun she was having and what I was missing out on. But that was the extent of it. The next day, she was her jovial self.
See, Tammin, you're in good company.
Yeah, I guess you weren't that mad. You didn't call me any. I think I was starting to go down that whatever, Roxy.
Yes.
path.
You were feeling dramatic. That's fine. That's fine.
Can you
Yes.
blame an actor?
Yeah, exactly.
So Roxy, can you explain a little more, or maybe Kristen, you can explain a little bit more about why we're here today, and what your family is dealing with and struggling with, and just let us find out a little bit more about you and your family.
Yeah. I'll try to make a very long story as abbreviated as possible. But obviously, thank you guys for having me on, and for allowing this platform to spread hopefully more awareness, because it's such an important cause, not just for me personally, but for all of these families that are that are fighting their battles with children with rare disease. So Charlotte, my oldest daughter, who's now almost 11, was born typical birth, met all of her milestones until 3.5. And then my husband and I noticed that she was starting to struggle with her speech, get stuck on her words. And that led to us kind of starting the path of seeing some specialists. From getting stuck on her speech, she started having these kind of myoclonic jerks, these almost look like muscle twitches, which again were strange. So after probably 3 months of working with some specialists, she was diagnosed with something called Batten disease. It's a rare neurodegenerative brain disease. They said, it's rare, it's incurable, prepare your home for wheelchairs. And your other daughter, by the way, might have a 25% chance of having the same diagnosis. And so obviously my husband and I were shocked. But because we were kind of leading down this path of potential rare disease from our specialists, we had already started working with some people around the world on how to, tackle this beast, basically. 3 weeks later, Gwyneth was diagnosed with the same neurodegenerative brain disease. It's called Batten CLN6. Also classified as a lysosomal storage disorder. So picture a neuron in your brain, and every brain has a trash can. And when that trash can fills up, a protein or an enzyme recycles that waste. Charlotte and Gwyneth don't make that protein, the CLN6, which is a protein. And so waste builds up in the neurons, and the neurons die. And when the neurons die, there's loss of skill, loss of speech, loss of sight, loss of mobility. I mean, the list goes on. We can get into that later. So obviously we were devastated. We started a foundation 2 months later called the Charlotte and Gwyneth Gray Foundation, otherwise known as Cure Batten, in June of 2015. And we kind of shot off with a bang with our fundraising efforts. Obviously had tons of support from my husband's business community, and were able to raise a considerable amount of money in a short period of time to fund the first of its kind clinical trial. So I know that was a lot, but that's basically it in a gist.
To say that is, you're right. That's an abbreviated version, but really what you guys did was so unbelievable and so unheard of, because you started this amazing foundation, and within 2 years, the clinical trial started?
1 year.
Like 1 year.
Charlotte was diagnosed in March of 2015.
Right.
She was treated in March of 2016. And at the time she was diagnosed, there was no treatment. There was no real research for Batten CLN6. There's 14 forms of Batten disease. They have a form called CLN6. And just to give you an idea of how rare it is, it's like a 1 in a million. We all have 20,000 genes in our body, and we all have 2 copies of each gene. Mm-hmm. And if you have maybe a mutated copy, you might never know because you have a correct copy. I happen to meet a man that has the same bad gene in CLN6 that I do. And when we got married and had children, both of those bad genes were passed down to both of our girls, which again is a 25% chance, a 1 in 4 chance, because we each are bringing 2 genes to the table, or 4 in total, 2 passing them down. So they always tell you in the odds that it's a 25% chance that your child could potentially have something like this. We, of course, didn't know that we even had this mutation. We're all walking around with them. You'd never know because you have a healthy copy. And so unfortunately, we found out, much too late.
Do they test for those mutations of those genes now in pregnancy, and they didn't when you were pregnant, or it's just something that they have never tested for, they cannot test for, so it's just something that you will have to find out the way you did?
So they tested when I was pregnant with Charlotte for the top 100 rare diseases. You can pay for that extra test. I'm sure you did. I know Roxy did. When I was pregnant with Gwen, they had 200 tests at this point. So they're building their library of rare diseases, but there's 7,000 rare diseases. So what they don't tell you when you get like a clean bill of health, oh, your child's great, they don't tell you that they only tested for 100 of 7,000 rare diseases. So you think that you're in the clear when really you're not. So they test for the most common, like Tay-Sachs and, all of these other leukodystrophy, the list goes on. And so the only way to really know is either to do what's called like a microarray or some sort of new testing on your embryo, in utero at your, 10-week time point, CVS or amnio, whichever you decide to do, or you and your partner, which I always advocate for before you even think about having kids. It's so easy now to do a genetic screen and see where you both might match up. That could potentially be a problem. And then you can take the steps to avoid any sort of, complications, or you can take the risk and then test for it once you get pregnant.
I remember I had some mutation of something, I think, but my husband didn't have something, the gene that would have reacted with the bad gene that I had.
Right.
So we were okay.
Right.
But you don't hear of this when you're pregnant. You don't know all the factors that go into it. And
no. And you want to, when I have more time, that's something that I want to, do and advocate for, because I do think it's so important. I think knowledge is power, obviously, and knowing, what could be. Obviously, I can't turn back time and go, I wouldn't have Charlotte and I wouldn't have Gwen. So for that, I'm grateful that I have my children, but I certainly would have liked to have had healthy, children and not had them go through, what they've gone through in their short 10 years and 7 years of life. So yeah, get tested.
It's really interesting too, Kristen, because I remember when you were starting the foundation, well, we all sort of, got the news and really, we're digesting it, and like without missing a beat, you were like, literally right when you found out, you're like, what are we going to do? Like, this is it. We're not going home to like, just let this be. Like, we're not going down with a fight, And so the way that you kind of mobilized everything, because that in itself, just mobilizing the people to get this foundation started and like to then do the work, was something of like a miracle in and of itself.
Well, I think we had some time to prepare for it. In fact, if you remember, it was your 40th birthday in Palm Springs.
Yes.
I had to miss the first night because we got the call that her MRI came back and it looked like it could be a leukodystrophy. And so then she told me not to Google it. I'm like, well, of course I'm going to Google it. I Googled it, horrified, and was like, Roxy, I can't drive to the desert tonight. I need to figure this out. Gordon and I need to sit down and kind of figure out what's happening. It turned out obviously not to be a leukodystrophy, but just as horrible. But then, we just started. I think the internet can be a great thing. It can be a terrible thing too. But in our case, it gave us a lot of opportunity to reach out to people. We reached out to colleagues. Everyone, not just my immediate family mobilized, but you guys did too. You were calling your contacts, who's at this hospital, who's at that hospital. So, really, it was everyone coming together to fight, for these girls. And it was really pretty amazing to see. And provided hope. I can't imagine wallowing in my pain and misery. I had to have hope and a drive and a mission. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to function. I don't think.
Without hope, like, what do we have really? Right. And there's like such a strength that is just undeniable, that is just coming across. I just met you. And are there days that you don't feel strong and that you don't cope, or is the end goal so clear to you of what you need to do for your kids and how you can help them that you don't ever wallow in your own sadness?
I do not do wallow well. My mom passed away when I was 13, very short, she had leukemia, and it was 3 months and diagnosed and then gone. And it was very hard to deal with that. And I am very similar to my dad. We kind of bury the grief and go about life. And so I think with this diagnosis, I probably do a little bit of the same, because I just don't like the way it feels to be sad and to wonder what will be in the future, because I don't know. I mean, none of us know really, but I don't know. I don't know if the gene therapy will work. I know it's not working as well on Charlotte as it has on Gwen. But yeah, I've definitely had some hard moments. And a lot of those came with just talking to other moms that are going through the same thing that I am. I've had some moms in the community that we've built lose their children. And anytime you lose a child in this community, it resonates very close to home because you try not to think about that with your own child. I also think I do a very good job of filling my plate up with crap. Roxy can probably attest to this. We just got a new puppy. I have a 1-year-old son. You know, we might want to have another child. I don't know. Where I'm constantly, I think, filling myself and my husband, we're filling ourselves up with stuff, joyful things that we don't have to live in the hard stuff, because it is, every day is hard. I mean, we laugh at our life sometimes. The stuff that we have to deal with is laughable. But we know we're not the only two people walking, you know, in this path, because I talk to families every day that are dealing with the same shit.
Yep. Sit still is something you definitely don't do. You're always go, go, go. Don't sit down, which I think has worked well for you and everything that you're doing. And, you know, you mentioned Callan, your 1-year-old sweet baby boy, which had been a blessing. And I wanted to know, because I don't know that we've actually ever talked about this, is because, I mean, you're so busy with everything going on. When was that moment? When did you know that this was the right time to have the third baby, you know?
Well, I mean, to be totally real with you, I think the moment that my girls were diagnosed, I literally, like 2 months later, was in my IVF doctor's office going, and I had, you know, Charlotte and Gwen naturally. So I knew nothing about IVF. I knew nothing about the process. So I just wanted to inform myself and ourselves. But then it was delayed because we went to treatment a year, you know, from diagnosis. And then we were in Columbus for 3 months, and then to Napa for a rehabilitative camp for Charlotte. So we kind of put it on hold. That was more, Gordon really wanted to put it on hold until we knew what we were doing with the girls. And I'm grateful that he did, because I don't think I would have been able to give them my, you know, 100% attention if I had been pregnant. And I wouldn't have been able to even be in the treatment room, frankly. But it was hard. It was, I was older. It was hard. I went through multiple rounds of IVF before I could get a healthy embryo. And it wasn't always Batten disease that came up on the, you know, on the tests. It was just chromosomally abnormal because, you know, I was 40 at the time. So, you know, those eggs aren't super ripe by the time 40. So it's hard. So, but you know, we were settling into our home, back into our home soon. And we just knew, I don't know, it just kind of worked out that way, honestly.
So Batten disease did come up in some of the embryos that they tested. So again, if you had gotten pregnant naturally, that could have happened again for your third child, fourth child, you know.
We have a family in our community that has 3 boys with it.
Oh my God.
3 boys.
Wow.
And then we have families that had 1 diagnosed and the other one okay, and families that had 1 diagnosed and 3 typical children. So it's very, the odds don't seem right. 25% doesn't seem accurate, but I think when you look at the full spectrum of families that are dealing with this, it probably is. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we had to deal with both. We had 2 hurdles we had to climb before we had a healthy embryo, and thankfully we had more than 1 at the end of the day. So yeah, and Callan's been awesome. He's been a gift to our family, and the girls love him so much, and he loves them. And it's a really special thing to see every day.
You know, going back to the clinical trials, because you were able to galvanize so many people and it spread like wildfire all over, you know, the internet and online, and it became really viral. And so many people knew about the girls, you know, it was like, I would get stopped. I mean, to this day, I still get stopped at least probably once a week with friends that ask me about how the girls are doing and like, you know, what the latest is on them and all that. So for people that have been there kind of through, you know, the birth of the Gray Foundation and, you know, the treatments and like the clinical trials, what can you tell people about the girls now today?
I mean, everything I will tell you is subjective, obviously.
Mhm.
The clinical trial, we've treated 15 children to date. Our foundation funded the preclinical work and then obviously the treatment for these children. We started with 6 and then we kept adding more children as they were diagnosed,
Mhm.
which is pretty crazy because if you might remember when Charlotte was diagnosed, Roxy, they said maybe only one other child in the world had it. And then once we went viral and people heard about us, then we started getting contacted by families. So until the last patient is out of the trial, which is probably another 12 months because they need to be followed for 24 months, we won't have the true data. There's been some preliminary data that's come out, but in a nutshell, the children that are treated younger and less symptomatic are doing better than the children that were treated at an older time point in age. So Charlotte was diagnosed at 4 and she was treated at 5, which doesn't seem very old, but Charlotte lost. So she was diagnosed in March of 2015. We were fighting for treatment in December. I know that was just my own like pipe dream that I was aggressively trying to push. By Thanksgiving, she couldn't walk anymore. And that was like, she could take a few steps, but she couldn't, walk independently anymore. And that was one of the most crushing things for us as a family, because that was one of the big pieces of even qualifying for the trial. So, they need to take at least 10 steps with assistance. And when you see your child stop being able to walk independently, there's a huge fear that they won't be treated. And, at that point we thought, oh, well, potentially the gene therapy could help them relearn skills they already knew. That was the philosophy. It wouldn't reverse the damage that was done, but because they already knew how to walk, they might be able to relearn how to walk or relearn how to talk. But she was nonverbal and mostly non-ambulatory when she was treated. And she hasn't fared as well, as you know, Roxy. I mean, she has had very stable, long periods of stability where you don't see a lot of regression or progression of the disease. But Gwen is now 8 and she's walking with assistance. And Charlotte stopped walking before her 5th birthday. So she's 3 years beyond Charlotte's time point. So we know gene therapy works. But we just don't know for how long and how effective and really what that looks like for either of them or any of the kids that are treated. That is obviously my subjective opinion. But it seems, because I talk to every single parent that's been in the trial, that the kids that are treated younger do better, which makes sense. But
do the girls have an awareness of what is happening to their bodies?
Gwen,
are they scared?
I mean, I'm sure I'm sure it's scary. Gwen acts out more behaviorally, like she gets frustrated, she screams, she gets mad. I mean, the other day, this hasn't happened at all. This is the first time this has happened. But the other morning, I have a universal mic in my room so I can hear her, and then I can click on the camera in each child's room to see what's happening. And Gwen usually gets out of bed. She's an early riser, like 4 a.m. But she plays in her room. And so we just let her play in her room. And then we come in and, put on her music at some point around 6. But she was really upset at like 5 a.m. after I had already gone in to put on some music. And we went in there and she had a fat lip. There was blood on the carpet. And we rolled back the camera and she had gotten her foot stuck. She tried to get out of bed and her foot was stuck in the fitted sheets that were tucked in. And so when she went to try to get out of bed, her hair was in her face. Her hand missed the nightstand to brace herself, and she went face first into the carpet. By the way, it's like thick carpet and a triple ply like pad. So she has a fat lip. She's pissed. She has not been happy the last few days because it's like, what the hell? What's happening to my body? Why can't I do the things I used to do so well? She used to swim like a champ. She used to jump off the side of the pool. She can't do that anymore. She still loves to get in the pool, but it just looks different now. For Charlotte, I don't know. I mean, I think that she's in there. She is and was a smart cookie. So I think that she has total awareness of what has happened. But for her, she's joyful. And that's kind of my level of where my joy is in a day, is as long as she's joyful and she's not in pain. And thankfully for her and for Gwen, they're not in pain most days. This disease doesn't cause pain. It just is shitty in many other ways. there are friends of mine who have other issues with their children, with hips being dislocated. I don't know, crazy stuff where their children are in pain. And so I don't know, you as a parent dealing with this, you move your barometer of what your reality is and what you're able to, I think, accept and tolerate. And so if they're not in pain and they're happy, then we're going to be joyful with them.
You know, seeing, because we all, at some point, we all need some sort of a release or, you know, a getaway. And I'm actually very proud of you, Kristen, because you're going to be traveling a little bit this summer. Yeah, but with just the hubby, gonna do a fun little trip. But like on like even just a daily day-to-day basis, like if you just need a break, like I don't even know that I've ever seen you take a break, but when you do need a break, like what does that look like for you?
Paddle tennis.
Yeah. Whacking some balls.
Wax balls, drinks with my girlfriends. Yeah. I mean, I love just spending time with family and friends in my home. And so, you know, I invite you guys over. It takes forever to get you out of here, but you're here.
I have to take a road trip.
Time with my family. Obviously, I have help in the home. That makes a huge difference, but we are divide and conquer. It is not a one person. Like not one person could handle this job between the 3 kids, now the puppy. So yeah, I mean, paddle tennis, a walk up the hill, and a nice margarita or glass of wine.
What is the prognosis for your girls? What does the doctor say? Or they don't know and they can't give you any?
No, which honestly, sometimes I'm grateful for because I mean, you know what the natural history prognosis is, and that's grim. That's a grim prognosis. Hi, handsome boy, my son. He's looking at me like, what are you doing? But we don't know. I mean, with the treatment, it's the first of its kind. So we're not sure. We know what it's done for other rare diseases. It's you know, lengthen the children's lives. It's interesting that you're asking me this right now because I've had a lot of kind of self-reflecting moments lately that I don't really talk about a lot out loud. But I mean, obviously I know that Charlotte is not going to live in the way that I envisioned her to live at this point. And I don't want her to live her whole life in the way that she is right now, because that is not what you want for your child. And so I always, everyone asks how she's doing. And I always say she's kind of in this purgatory. It's no better, no worse. We're kind of just in this purgatory place where we're just not sure. But I also, you know, have a friend who just lost her daughter, same age, same disease, different mutation, but similar path. And I see how hard it is for her and how much she's been struggling with just not having that presence of her daughter in her life as a being, not just a soul, but as a person. And I can't imagine not having Charlotte in our life in the way she is, you know? And I always joke that she's my easiest child, even though she's the most physically demanding. She's 74 pounds and 5 feet tall and, you know, requires all level of care that you can ever imagine. And, but I also can't imagine not, it's such a like part of our lives. I can't imagine not doing that. Everything we do is for Charlotte. Can Charlotte do this? Our car we bought is because we want her to be comfortably traveling. We bought, you know, a vacation home because we can't vacation like a traditional family can vacation. We have to drive to vacation places. So a local place where we can go, where we can get on the water easily. And we bought a kayak with a special seat for her, a beach cruiser that goes on sand. I mean, everything we do with her in mind because we want her with us and we want her to be a family. Yeah.
It's really beautiful, actually. You know, when we look at your vacation photos and everything, and it's like, you do such a good job of taking all 3 kids, you know, and like making them be a part of every single experience you do, whether that's, you know, like you're saying, kayaking or skiing or, you know, doing whatever it is, horseback riding. Like you guys really do such a great job of that, which is amazing. But I also wanted to ask you too a little bit about faith, because I remember when we were younger, you would actually go to church. I remember she would go to church when we lived in New York, and like, you did the thing, and you were like, if not, both spiritual and religious. I wanted to know now, what does that look like for you? Like, what does faith look like? Do you still feel faithful? Do you still feel as spiritual and religious as you were?
Interesting question, Roxy.
Uh-huh.
I think when I lived out of my home, out of like away from my family, church, I was raised Catholic, not in a strict Catholic home. My extended family was more religious than my dad and my mom, but my mom converted, her marriage to my dad. And I mean, she was like Lutheran or something, and she became Catholic, and she was kind of the person that got us going to church. But when I was in New York or when I lived elsewhere, I would from time to time definitely go to church and try to honor my grandmother and my aunt in that way and make them feel proud that I still kept God in my life. But yeah, no, God and I are in quite a beef right now. It's very hard. It's, I baptized my son. I baptized him just like I did both girls. And I'm even considering first communion for Gwen because it's kind of that rite of passage and part of our family, fabric and tradition. But me personally, I have a very hard time. So I lean on other mediums for faith. I believe that there is a God. I think it would be hard to live my life thinking there wasn't a God, but I'm not happy with him right now.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I mean, how can you not? I mean, again, I always say anger is not a primary emotion, but how can you not be angry, right? Is there a level of why did this happen to me and my family and anger, or is there peace and acceptance, which is where you find the joy?
There's definitely not, I don't think I have peace in it. A lot of people say, oh, this was your calling. You found your calling. There is a bigger purpose, like why this happened in life. And look what you and your husband have done to help all of these families. But, I would rather have healthy children. I mean, I could help these other families with healthy children. I don't need to have children that are battling this horrible disease. And so it's hard. But then I look at other families because I talk to them on the regular, and I've got a family that just has a newly diagnosed little girl who looks like a brunette Gwen. It crushes me every time I see a picture of her. And she had 7 miscarriages, finally had her baby girl, and her baby girl has Batten disease. God. I mean, like 1 stillbirth, then a Batten disease child. I'm like, that just, it's not right. Like, no one should ever experience pain in their life. And definitely no one should ever experience the loss of a child being sick. I mean, it's a horrific feeling. But then to just compound it for some of these families is bananas, just to see. And then you start going, well, at least, Charlotte's not on a ventilator, and at least, she's not, she doesn't have a trach, and and it's like, forget it. Like, it's wish she had none of it. Or, it's shitty all around. But I know I'm not the only one. I can't be a martyr because I'm not the only one that's dealing with it. I know too many people that are. It sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, this community has really opened up. I mean, nobody would have ever known about how far-reaching that this disease really is without everything that you guys are doing. What's been the biggest sort of like thing that you've learned about all of this? I mean, because a lot of these families were not even diagnosed properly with Batten disease, correct? Like they were misdiagnosed. Like people didn't even know their diagnoses really. I mean, what have you learned through all this,
I mean, I think definitely medical advancements have been made huge strides, even from when Charlotte was diagnosed in 2015 to where they are today. But really, I mean, rare disease as a whole impacts 30 million people, and 50% of those are children. And I mean, it's up there with AIDS and cancer. But you hear about each little rare disease, not rare diseases as a whole and as a community. And, I have had the pleasure of meeting, and you've introduced me even, Roxy, to people that have contacted you to hundreds of thousands of rare disease parents that are trying to pave the path for their own child's rare disease, and how do they do it? And it's amazing because they're all like Gordon. They all want to save their children, and they all want to, they'll do whatever they can. I mean, sacrifice their homes, sacrifice their lifestyle, like anything, just to get an opportunity to save their kids. And so I've met some pretty incredible individuals through this journey. And yeah, I mean, I would have never known about Batten disease, obviously,
right.
Or any rare diseases. So
what can we do, not just just people do in general, to raise awareness, to help? Like how do we play a part in moving this forward in a positive way?
Yeah, I mean, we just launched a new campaign. Obviously, COVID was not kind to anyone, and it wasn't kind to the nonprofit world either. And so we had taken a break, and then we decided to, come out with a new video, because as Roxy said, everyone's always asking what's going on with the girls, what's going on with the foundation, and so we have a new video out where we feature many of these families. It's not just about Charlotte and Gwen anymore. It's about all of these other families that, are walking in the same path that we have. And we did a #MoreBirthdays campaign. So really giving these families and children opportunity at more birthdays. And that comes with awareness. Awareness equals potential for funding. Funding equals research, and research equals treatments. And so spreading the word is, first line of defense. Hopefully then it inspires and motivates people to give. Gwen's turning 8 on July 10th. And so that'll be our first More Birthdays campaign. And so we're going to ask our donors and followers to donate $8 in honor of Gwen. And each birthday for each of these children will be sharing their story, sharing the child's story. And, if the child's turning 10, we'll recommend and gratefully ask for people to donate $10. And so that's kind of what we're going to, it's a 12-month campaign. We're going to run it until Batten Disease Awareness Day next year. So it launched on June 9th. Of this year, and we'll post it out on Facebook and Instagram. Our website has our new video up there. There's plenty of ways to donate and share. And obviously, part of the awareness and outreach comes back to us with opportunities too. Have you talked to the scientist? The first day we launched, a mom reached out and said, have you heard of this Alzheimer's drug? There's a new drug that just got approved by the FDA that could help, Batten disease patients. And it's true, there's a lot of crossover with rare disease. So what could help someone with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or dementia could help someone with Batten disease. What could help someone with Rett syndrome? We're working on another drug for another pediatric rare disease, could help, our families. And so, with that awareness comes more information for us. People want to help. People are good in many ways, and we've seen it. And so, that's all we ask. Just spread the word, and if you can donate a couple coffees, then that'd be great too. Volunteer. There's plenty of opportunities to get involved. So
yeah, absolutely. So once this current clinical trial is over, will you be doing gene therapy? Will the foundation be doing gene therapy again and trying like new variations or maybe repeating with like the same patients as before, anything like that?
We can't redose. Our hope was to be able to redose. We don't own the rights to the gene therapy anymore. It was bought by Amicus Therapeutics. They own all of the Batten disease gene therapy world umbrella, if you will. And so they'll be launching hopefully another clinical trial for Batten CLN6, our form, and then new trials for other forms of Batten disease, which is great because they'll be funded. And, we don't have to worry about fundraising that bucket anymore, but we do fundraise. We are fundraising currently for small molecule. So finding drugs and repurposing them for Batten disease, finding drugs that maybe, the easiest is to find an FDA approved drug that's already been approved that we can then repurpose for our indication.
Mm-hmm.
But we might find a drug. We're going to be signing a contract with a lab in Italy, and we're going to be screening some drugs that aren't FDA approved.
Mm-hmm.
But then if they show promise, then we can go and ask for approval in a clinical trial. We're also working with a drug company, a biotech company called Anavex, that has a drug that's in 2 clinical trials. One's for Alzheimer's, one's for Rett syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
We did preclinical work on our CLN6 mice, and it's showing promise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are more symptom management drugs. So we know it's not a one-shot deal. Gene therapy is not a one-shot deal. You need gene therapy plus small molecule, or gene therapy plus regenerative medicine. So we know we need a multi-pronged approach to kick this disease in the ass. And so that's kind of where we're focusing right now, is small molecule and regenerative medicine. Regenerative medicine's like stem cell therapy, things like that. So there's some new innovative things that are kind of on the cusp right now that we're keeping a close eye on. But really, I think our big focus is small molecule, because it's the fastest turnaround. These kids don't have time. We have so many newly diagnosed children, and there's just no time. So we gotta find things that we can move quickly and get into trial for them.
Well, we're so grateful that you came on this show and told your story. And I knew a little bit about Batten disease because I followed, the wonder of social media, right? I followed this family for years, watching their daughter, and my heart just broke for them. And I was like, how can I help? You feel like, what can we do? But you're right, spreading awareness, donating, getting the word out so that this isn't something that is so rare. It's a rare disease, but it's not a rare topic, and so by doing this, we hope that it will be less of one. So where can people, I think you said you have a website where people can go on, they can let us know where everyone can find you.
Yeah, so curebatten.org, curebatten.org is our website. Everything's on there. Instagram is @Cure Batten, Facebook @Cure Batten, Twitter, if I ever figure out how to work it, we have one.
TikTok, maybe.
Yes. That would be scary for me, because in my past life, I wanted to be a hip hop dancer. So
there is more than hip hop dancers. I promise you, there's lots of ways to get the word out. So
lots of ways to connect. My email's on there.
Kristen, tell everybody about Gray Academy too.
Oh, yeah. We started a school. We figured one nonprofit, why not start another? There was really no appropriate place for Charlotte when we came back from gene therapy. As far as schools were concerned, we wanted a kind of a not one size fits all, but an all-in-one place where she could get all of her therapeutic needs met, and then a custom education. So we started the Gray Academy in Santa Monica. That's the Gray, like our last name, academy.org. We serve children with moderate to severe disabilities, all different diagnoses, not just Batten disease. And we have all the traditional therapies and modalities at the school location, with the custom education plus alternate interventions like aquatic therapy and auditory vestibular therapy and all these kind of, I'm always looking at the Eastern medicine stuff too. So we're always bringing in, we have a new eSTEM situation we're rolling out there, but it's a beautiful place, and I get to be there every day with my girls, and we're hopefully going to be bringing one there next year, just because of this COVID stuff. It's just the public school system is a challenge. Right? So it's been a lot of work, but I can't imagine if not having it, there would be no place for Charlotte to go. And so I'm grateful that we have such great people working there.
Yes, Kristen is also a school administrator. Just another
oh my goodness.
But she does it flawlessly. She is Wonder Woman. So thank you so much, Kristen. You know how much I love you. And I thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for sharing it as well. And it was fun. Next time we'll have to have some fun chit chat.
I need to know more about Roxy's days and her birthday parties so I can use it against her when she's icing me out. I can be like, yo, on this day you did this, and just embarrass her, really.
I definitely have some nuggets for you.
I need a few more.
She does.
Nuggets.
Fine.
To the point where she's never even told me her age. So you can tell me right now.
I'm 22.
We've known each other for so long too.
22.
That's amazing, to. I don't say my age much anymore either.
Right? I think once you kind of like hit a certain number, it just kind of is whatever you want it to be.
I have a neighbor above me that sends me an invitation to the 15th anniversary of her 40th birthday, and then it's pretty funny. I think she's 80 now, but she's been doing it for the last 20 years, and her ladies still show up. So I'm like, maybe
I'm kind of into that. Maybe that's the thing to do, you know?
Exactly.
You know, it's funny because men never hide their age.
Yeah.
No. Not really. My husband just says it all the time. I'm just like, okay, you're just putting it out there. Sure. Just so easy comes off your tongue.
I feel like they don't have all of the weights that.
Of course.
Yes.
The shame that comes with getting older. That's for sure.
Yes. And
we can talk about that on another show.
For sure. We can talk about our old men that we're married to, y'all.
You're like, David's like probably like 4 years older, but I don't even. She's like, he's so much older than me. He's like 20 years older. And I went,
It's true. It's true. They're old men. They were like in college in what, the 80s?
No.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because Kristen also has an oldie.
I do. He's 56.
Mm-hmm.
He looks pretty good.
Mine's not in the 50s
yet. Yeah, he's they're you know, they're our older men. That's
more of his taste in music and the way he drives. That's more of the old factor for
me. That's so true.
They want more like the older they get, because mine's 11 years older. And he's like, I just want to be in Montana. I'm like, I'm not old enough to be on a ranch yet. Like, you know, I need the city. I need people.
Yes.
I need to connect. He's like, I just want to read a book. I'm like, I'm not there. I'm not there yet. I'm not there.
Read the AARP magazine and sip a fruity cocktail.
Smoke a pipe. No. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And you can also follow us along at Women on Top Official on Instagram.
And Women on Top Podcast on Facebook. And we have a Clubhouse group, Women on Top. And please, whatever podcast app you're listening to us on,
freaking rate,
subscribe.
Like, what are you doing with your life? Just do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
I have so many people who like say to me, oh my God, I love your show. I'm like, yeah. Did you subscribe? Right. Like, not just like, did you comment? Did you rate? Did you do all the things? And then on my Instagram, I had 4,000 people go, you have a podcast? And I'm like,
and you're like, I only talk about it
every day. Like, yes, I do actually. And now you are held accountable.
Yes, so exactly.
I might be one of those people though, because I have no idea how to comment or rate. I know how to.
Kristen, and you listen to the podcast, Kristen. So
do a little tutorial for your guests. I don't know.
Yes, yes. You know what? A lot of people too. They think
I don't think I know.
They think subscribing means you have to pay. Is what I've heard. People think that it's paid, but it's for free, you guys. It's free.
We give this to you.
Pop up all the time. Who knows? Why?
We'll let them know.
Like a 2-step process is a little challenging.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
I bet if you give the tutorial, you might find more ratings. And
this is true.
Good to know.
I like it. I like it. Kristen's our new social media guru too.
Who knew?
Definitely not.
Who knew? This is exactly what we need.
I know.
Media manager.
You're hired, Kristen.
Once you find one, we can share her or him.
Yes. Yes.
Also, I'm terrible.
Oh.
Like browbeat daily about it. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's just another hat to wear. You know, it's like another full-time job. Yeah.
And thanks guys so much for listening. I am Tammin Sursock.
And I am Roxy Manning.
And we are Women on Top.